More than $3.1 million in student aid vanished without explanation. 62 ghost accounts appeared overnight. 14 secret transfers fed a hidden campus fund, and every document pointed to one name: Dr. Abdurraksh Mahmood Wasami. What looked like small errors exposed something terrifying. Female students quietly routed into mentorship trips controlled by Sinaloa contacts, drug money pushed through university programs, and vulnerable young women tracked like property. This wasn't mismanagement. It was a dangerous system hiding in plain sight. Let me show you. Shocking campus sweep: 287 federal agents seal university buildings after $2.6 billion financial irregularity review. At 4:12 a.m., the quiet campus of Atlantic Hills University was no longer quiet. Federal vehicles rolled in without sirens, headlights dimmed, agents moving with disciplined precision. Their target was not a dorm, not a classroom, but the office of University President Dr. Amina Hassan Wasame. The doors were reinforced. The walls were soundproof. Inside, investigators found 2 sealed safes, 6 passports under different identities, and 14 international banking records linked to offshore accounts. Down the service road, a warehouse sat outside university property. When agents opened it, the air turned cold. 680 sealed crates, each marked with labels tied to the Sinaloa cartel. No faculty, no staff, and no sign of the president. For 5 years, more than $4.2 billion in unexplained financial flows had quietly moved through university programs, research grants, and mentorship initiatives. This was no academic misconduct. This was a system, and it had just been exposed. If you believe investigations like this must be uncovered, please comment yes. The reformer's facade. For years, Dr. Amina Hassan Wasam was admired as a reformer, the smiling president of Atlantic Hills University, speaking at conferences, awarding scholarships, and promoting her signature women's mentorship program. To parents, she was a guardian of opportunity. To students, a symbol of achievement. But federal investigators quickly learned that her public image and her private operations were worlds apart. The files recovered from her office showed that her mentorship initiative wasn't about guidance. It was a recruitment funnel. Amina kept detailed lists of over 80 young women flagged as high potential, each labeled with notes on their financial struggles, family issues, or academic ambitions. These were not mentorship evaluations. They were vulnerability assessments. Agents discovered travel papers for 27 leadership trips that never connected to any university partner. Instead, the destinations were private docks, offshore resorts, and unregistered marinas. At least 14 students had mysteriously withdrawn or paused studies after participating in these trips, with no follow-up from the university. Financial audits raised even more alarms. Over 3 years, Amina authorized nearly $190 million in so-called student advancement funds. Only a fraction reached legitimate programs. The rest moved quietly through consulting firms and international partners linked to known trafficking corridors. The deeper investigators looked, the clearer it became. Dr. Amina wasn't preparing young women for success. She was selecting them deliberately, methodically, for something far more sinister. If you think vulnerable students deserve protection, please like this video and comment, "Protect Students." The Island, January 3rd, 2026, 3 a.m. Off the California coastline, 78 miles from shore, the ocean disappeared beneath a thick wall of fog. Ahead of it stood a private island, a fortress disguised as a retreat. Surveillance analysts counted 12 perimeter towers, reinforced barriers, and an estimated 200 armed private security contractors guarding every approach. For years, the island hosted exclusive leadership gatherings, billed as private conferences for global investors and visiting dignitaries. But federal intelligence confirmed the truth. Inside the main compound, 36 young women were being held in isolation, transported there through closed-circuit travel networks tied to Dr. Amina Hassan Warsam's mentorship pipeline. The island operated 1 week each month, drawing in a rotation of wealthy executives and influential power brokers from Somali diaspora networks across Europe, the Middle East, and North America. Behind every invitation was secrecy. Behind every event was silence. And tonight, that silence was ending. More than 500 federal personnel, FBI, DHS, DEA, ICE, and Coast Guard, converged under a single mission priority: rescue the women, secure every suspect, prevent anyone from escaping. No media, no announcements, no warning. 3:18 a.m. The fog thickened, dense, heavy, swallowing the horizon. Command briefings identified 3 approach corridors, not for spectacle, not for force, but for control, for the safety of the hostages inside. As the island lights blurred into the mist, tension settled across every operator on the water. There would be no second chance. 3:41 a.m. Movement at the main courtyard. Island security shifted positions. Radio chatter spiked. A convoy of luxury vehicles idled beneath the central pavilion, arrival staging for guests scheduled later that morning. Internal logs uncovered earlier in the investigation had referenced this date as Priority Attendance Week. The window was small and closing. 3:57 a.m. The first breach teams reached the outer perimeter. Floodlights swept through the fog, then vanished into white haze. Shouts echoed across concrete walls. Panic broke inside the compound as guards scrambled, not toward the hostages, but toward escape corridors along the island's service docks. That was the moment Federal Command had prepared for. 4:02 a.m. Hallways were cleared, courtyard secured. The central structure was breached in sequence, doors unlocked, voices reassured. The women inside did not cheer. They did not speak. Some cried. Others stood frozen, exhausted, silent, uncertain whether rescue was real. But they were no longer alone. Within minutes, the main compound was fully controlled. No aircraft departed. No vessels fled. No documents were burned. And for the first time in 5 years, the island went quiet. Not with fear, with accountability. The evidence. When federal teams pushed deeper into the island compound, the true scale of the operation didn't reveal itself through gunfire or confrontation. It revealed itself through silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that lingered in every hallway and every locked room, the kind of silence built over years, brick by brick, secret by secret, until no one on the outside could imagine what existed here. The first building inspected was the administrative pavilion, a structure modeled to resemble a luxury resort office. But inside, federal agents found nothing resembling hospitality. Instead, there were surveillance terminals, rows of screens showing live camera feeds covering every inch of the island, walkways, private suites, the beach perimeter, and even the common areas where the women had been held. Logs showed 24-hour monitoring with detailed notes marking each woman's behavior. Withdrawn, fearful, unresponsive, cooperative. In a side office, agents opened a locked drawer containing 268 identification cards, passports, driver's licenses, and student IDs belonging to women whose families believed they were studying abroad or attending leadership retreats. The dates under their photos told a different story. Many had been missing for months. Deeper inside the pavilion, agents located a small climate-controlled vault. Inside were 42 handwritten ledgers, each tracking financial commitments from members of the private club. Pages recorded entry fees as high as $450,000 per visit, recurring contributions worth $8.7 million annually, and event sponsorships topping $22 million within a 3-year span. Every number confirmed one truth. This island was not a vacation retreat. It was a marketplace. Across the courtyard, a second structure revealed an even darker network. Rows of locked storage units held designer clothing, sealed boxes of cosmetics, and high-end accessories purchased in bulk, all itemized in a digital inventory system under coded labels. Not gifts, not amenities. Uniforms, tools of presentation, tools of control. Agents also located a communications hub shielded by 3 layers of encryption hardware. There they found over 19,000 archived messages routed through offshore servers, coded itineraries, international travel manifests, and encrypted withdrawals from accounts linked to individuals in Dubai, Nairobi, London, Toronto, and Stockholm. One folder titled simply Rotation detailed travel schedules for high-profile visitors over the past 4 years. But the most shocking discovery came from beneath the central pavilion. A concealed stairwell led to an underground chamber, not a bunker, not a shelter, but a planning room. Along the walls hung globally interconnected maps tracing financial flows, recruitment pipelines, and transport routes. Color-coded pins marked the locations of feeder universities, partner organizations, and offshore holding companies. It was a command center, the operational brain of an empire hidden behind academia. On a steel table in the corner, agents found a stack of glossy brochures. Women of Tomorrow, they read, Amina's face on the front, inspirational quotes, smiling students, hope, ambition, promise. And next to them, a second stack of documents. Lists of approved candidates, ranked by appearance, language fluency, academic prestige, and vulnerability score. By the time agents finished securing the compound, the truth was unmistakable. This island wasn't improvised. It wasn't opportunistic. It was engineered. A fully functioning, internationally funded system designed to exploit young women under the disguise of mentorship, leadership, and global education. And for the first time, federal authorities could see the architecture of the entire machine. The walls of the fortress did not merely hide the crimes, they organized them. The money trail. Long before agents set foot on the island, the investigation began with something far less dramatic. Numbers. At first glance, the financial records from Atlantic Hills University looked ordinary. Scholarships, research grants, donor contributions. But nothing about the numbers matched the behavior of a normal university. Not the volume, not the velocity, and certainly not the destinations. Over a 5-year period, auditors identified $4.2 billion in transactions that bypassed traditional oversight channels, routed instead through special projects, international study programs, and restricted philanthropic allocations. These entries were too clean, too structured, too consistent to be accidental. They were engineered. Federal analysts reconstructed the flow. It began inside the university. Hidden among routine payments were microtransfers, thousands of them, always below regulatory reporting thresholds, 35, 49s, 72s. Meaningless alone, but coordinated together, bundled through automated scripts, they accumulated into offshore holdings worth over $900 million. From there, the money split into multiple streams. One stream fed front companies registered in Malta, Malaysia, and Mauritius. Another vanished into charitable organizations with no websites, no employees, and no physical offices. Just bank accounts that moved millions in silence. A third stream funded luxury travel routes used to transport selected students overseas. Airline tickets, private charter deposits, resort bookings, all charged to academic exchange budgets. Each dollar had a purpose. Each purpose had a lie attached. Investigators discovered that Dr. Amina Hassan Walsam personally approved more than 7,400 financial authorizations through internal review systems. Some were legitimate, many were not. The pattern was chilling. Travel budgets ballooned without explanation. Consulting invoices appeared from global leadership partners, whose names never matched any verified entity. And donor gifts disappeared into shell foundations hours after arriving. But the clearest red flag was the offshore consolidation. In one Cayman Islands account alone, federal agents traced $412 million linked to transactions originating from university departments. A second account in the British Virgin Islands held $287 million in funds identified as Leadership Development Reserves. A third account in Dubai showed $166 million labeled under Women's Empowerment Initiatives. None of these funds ever benefited a single student. By comparing timestamps, investigators realized the movement of money aligned precisely with known mentorship recruitment phases. Withdrawals increased during academic midterms, when vulnerable students felt the most pressure and spiked dramatically every month preceding travel to the island. The money trail didn't just finance the operation, it controlled it. Financial managers, some unknowingly, others willingly, processed transfers through encrypted systems running outside the university's main servers. When agents finally gained access to the hidden ledger, they discovered something even more alarming: a ranking of benefactors across 17 countries, each tied to recurring contributions averaging $850,000 per quarter. Amina wasn't operating alone. She was the face of a global portfolio, a network of financiers, intermediaries, and power brokers who funded the pipeline and consumed its services. Every transaction was a brick. Every offshore account was a pillar. Every coded payment was a footstep toward the island. By the time analysts mapped the transactions on a digital table, the truth stood undeniable. This wasn't a side operation. This wasn't a compromise program. It was a $4.2 billion enterprise built with academic respectability, fueled by international donors, and protected by offshore secrecy. A financial machine, polished, silent, and deadly, hiding in plain sight. The reckoning. By dawn on January 3, 2026, the island was no longer a sanctuary for the powerful. Helicopters circled above the fog. Federal vessels secured every shoreline. And for the first time in years, the fortress built on silence finally cracked. When agents escorted the rescued women to safety, the magnitude of what had been uncovered spread through federal command posts like a shockwave. But the mission wasn't finished. What happened next would determine whether this network collapsed or resurfaced somewhere else. At 6:45 a.m., extraction teams escorted Dr. Amina Hassan Warsam from the underground planning room where she had been hiding. Her expression was calm, almost detached, as if she had rehearsed this moment. She did not struggle. She did not deny. She simply asked, "Who talked?" The agents didn't answer. They didn't need to. The evidence discovered hours earlier had already spoken louder than any confession. The moment her arrest was confirmed, operations unfolded rapidly across the country. At 7:22 a.m., a coordinated sweep began across 11 U.S. cities. Federal teams arrested 31 individuals tied to Amina's overseas consortium: financiers, middlemen, faculty collaborators, travel coordinators, and offshore brokers who had quietly enabled her empire for years. In Los Angeles, 2 Somali businessmen were detained during a private breakfast meeting. In Seattle, a tech investor was taken into custody as he prepared to board a private jet bound for Anchorage. In Chicago, agents raided a luxury penthouse where encrypted ledgers documented payouts exceeding $64 million. Meanwhile, international partners acted in parallel. By 8 a.m., authorities in London, Stockholm, Nairobi, and Abu Dhabi froze 114 accounts belonging to donors and club members tied to the island's operations. Several attempted withdrawals totaling over $38 million were blocked in real time. The financial machine that had fueled the island for half a decade finally halted. But the investigation didn't end with arrests or frozen assets. As analysts reconstructed Amina's decade-long ascent, they uncovered the most disturbing truth of all. The system had thrived because it was built inside institutions people trusted. Universities, philanthropic foundations, international leadership organizations all had provided legitimacy, protection, and prestige. Amina had weaponized respectability with surgical precision. She hosted conferences on women's empowerment while channeling millions to offshore havens. She led panels on educational equity while selecting vulnerable students based on debt ratios and psychological profiles. She delivered keynote speeches at global forums while orchestrating a hidden pipeline that moved young women across borders without parents suspecting anything was wrong. Her power had never come from the island. It had come from the illusion that she was one of the good ones. By 9:45 a.m., as federal agents loaded evidence crates onto secure transport vehicles, an unspoken realization settled over the task force. This case was bigger than a single university president or a single island. It exposed how easily a criminal enterprise could embed itself inside respected systems, not by force, but by influence, charm, and credibility. At 10:12 a.m., when Amina was escorted into a federal transport helicopter, the compound stood empty. The fog had lifted. Sunlight hit the concrete walls for the first time without shadows hiding behind them. The empire she built did not collapse because of one mistake. It collapsed because every survivor found the courage to speak, every agent refused to look away, and every secret she buried finally rose to the surface. Her fall was not just an arrest. It was a reckoning. For her network, and for the world that unknowingly empowered her. The path forward. In the end, this case was never just about one university, one island, or one powerful figure who believed prestige could shield her from accountability. It was about the long-term consequences of allowing corruption to grow inside institutions that were meant to protect and uplift young people. The damage will echo for years, in the lives interrupted, in the trust broken, and in the systems that now must confront how easily darkness hid behind titles, foundations, and polished reputations. But from that darkness came something far stronger, a renewed commitment to vigilance, reform, and justice. The future of this investigation is not simply about prosecution. It is about rebuilding purpose. Federal agencies are now tracing every financial corridor, every offshore account, every collaborator who believed they could operate in silence. Safeguards are being strengthened. Oversight is expanding, and new protections for vulnerable students are being advanced so that no program, no grant, and no initiative can ever again be used as a gateway to exploitation. What failed here must now become a lesson for every institution across the nation. And through every stage of this operation, one truth remained clear. The strength of the United States lies in the people who refuse to turn away. The men and women of the FBI, DHS, ICE, DEA, and Coast Guard acted with discipline, honor, and unwavering resolve. They planned carefully, protected every life they could, and carried out a mission that demanded courage under immense pressure. Their work was not driven by recognition. It was driven by duty, by compassion, and by the belief that every life is worth defending. This operation stands as a testament to American commitment, to justice, to accountability, and to the principle that no one stands above the law. The road ahead will involve trials, policy reforms, and continued cooperation across federal and international partners. But the greatest victory belongs to those who were rescued and to a future where their voices, not their silence, define what happens next. If you believe these investigations must continue, if you believe truth must be exposed and victims must be protected, please like this video, comment "Justice for Students," and share this story so more people can see it. Your engagement helps our message reach others, supports future investigations, and ensures that stories like this are not buried, but remembered, confronted, and stopped.